All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on the hidden brain of manufacturing, that invisible system that gets pretty much every single product you own into your hands. We're going to dive into the absolutely crucial world of production planning. So think about it. You walk into a store, you see what you want, you grab it, and you're out. Seems pretty simple, right? But have you ever stopped to wonder how that exact item, in the right size, the right color, just happened to be on that shelf at that precise moment? Yeah, it's definitely not magic. What you're seeing is the end result of an incredibly complex, high-stakes balancing act. It all comes down to answering one question. How much of what should we make and when? Get that right, and business is booming. Get it wrong? Well, the costs are huge. And this just lays it out perfectly. A manufacturer is basically always walking a tightrope between two cliffs. On one side, you make way too much stuff. Now your cash is just sitting there, tied up in products gathering dust in a warehouse, costing you money every single day. But on the other side, you make too little. The shelves are empty, customers are unhappy, and you've just sent them straight to your competition. So how do you stay on that tightrope and avoid falling off either side? Well, you start by trying to predict the future. And that brings us to the first essential tool in the production planning toolbox, the art of forecasting. At its core, forecasting is just a company's best educated guess about what you, the customer, are going to want to buy next month, next quarter, or even next year. It's the absolute foundation that the entire production plan is built on. But here's the problem. The future is messy. I mean, if you just look at the raw sales data like this, it's all over the place. Sales are up one month, down the next. It looks like total chaos. How in the world are you supposed to build a reliable plan based on that? And here's the secret. The really smart planners, they don't try to predict every little blip and dip. No, their job is to cut through all that noise to find the real signal, the real pattern hiding underneath. It's how they learn to ignore the temporary fads and focus on what people actually want long term. And check this out. This is where a simple math trick can create order out of chaos. By using what's called a moving average, basically just averaging out the sales from the last few months, you smooth out all those crazy highs and lows. And suddenly, that chaotic, jagged line, it becomes a much clearer trend. Now you've got something you can actually work with. Okay, so you've got your forecast. Awesome. Now you have to figure out how much stuff you should actually have sitting on the shelves. This is what we call the classic Goldilocks problem of inventory. You want the amount that's not too much, not too little, but just right. Now, this might sound super obvious, but it is a massive deal in manufacturing. Inventory isn't just stuff sitting there. It's cash that you can't use for anything else. It's rent you're paying for warehouse space. It's insurance in case it gets damaged. And it's the constant risk that it'll go out of style before you can even sell it. So this sets up a classic tug of war. If you make a bunch of small orders to keep your inventory levels low, well, the administrative costs of placing all those orders go through the roof. But if you place one giant order to save on paperwork, now your storage costs, your holding costs are going to skyrocket. The whole game is finding that perfect sweet spot right in the middle. And that's really the whole point. You're trying to create a super smart policy that perfectly balances those two costs, minimizing how much you spend in total just to have your stuff ready to go. In a perfect, magical world, your inventory levels would look just like this sawtooth pattern. A brand new shipment arrives at the exact second you use the very last part from the old shipment. Your stock shoots up and then it glides down smoothly to zero just as the next truck pulls up to the door. It's the absolute peak of efficiency. Okay, so we've looked into the future with our forecast and we've figured out our Goldilocks inventory strategy. Now it's time to put all those pieces together and build the master plan. You know, a production plan isn't just one giant to-do list. It's actually a hierarchy, and it goes from really broad down to super specific. You start at the top with the aggregate plan. That's the big picture strategy for the next year or so. Then you break that down into the master production schedule, which is the game plan for your final products. And finally, that explodes into the MRP, which is the nitty-gritty, hyper-detailed shopping list for every last screw, nut, and bolt you need. And this is where the magic happens. This is the payoff. All of that data, all that forecasting and scheduling, it's about to become something real, something you can actually hold. This is the moment where the spreadsheets meet the factory floor. So that plan, it's not an idea anymore. It becomes this, a perfect screw thread cut to an exact specification that the plan called for. Or it's this incredibly complex internal shape, carved out with amazing precision by a machine that was told exactly when to do its job weeks and weeks ago. It's a surface
ground down to a perfect mirror finish because it had to meet a quality standard that was decided on way back at the very beginning of the plan.
Or maybe it's this, an insanely intricate pattern, cut by a laser with microscopic accuracy. Every single one of these physical actions is the direct, tangible result of that long, invisible chain of planning.
So let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway here? Well, if you think of all the machines on the factory floor as the muscles of manufacturing, then production planning is the brain, directing every single move.
At the end of the day, production planning does so much more than just make things. It takes the wild chaos of what we all want and transforms it into an orderly, efficient system. It lives on that razor's edge, constantly balancing the waste of having too much with the pain of having too little. It's the quiet, data-driven intelligence that makes our entire on-demand world possible.
So the next time you're in a store and you find that perfect thing you were looking for, just take a second. Think about the incredible, invisible dance of prediction and math and logistics that put it there, and ask yourself, what was the invisible plan that brought this object all the way from raw materials, across the world, and right here into my hands?